The RG35XX now has 3 different iterations since it launched in 2023, and there's no denying it's a very popular handheld. In terms of pocketability and performance, it's pretty good for a $50 handheld, but now they've made it incredibly confusing. The original came out in early 2023. It was an okay device, it could emulate up to PlayStation 1. You know, comfortability, it was pretty good. So what they did is they launched a Plus version just a few months ago, jam-packed with specs, new shoulder buttons. It opened up the battery compartment, upgraded the battery capacity, and it can emulate up to Dreamcast, N64, and a bit of PSP. Lovely. I reviewed that a few months ago, fell in love with it. Now they've released a newer version of the older handheld that isn't as good as the Plus, but it has the same specs as the Plus. So now it directly competes, yet there's a $14 difference. So what they've done is they've downgraded this and put it into the same shell as the old RG35XX. So you don't have the upgraded shoulder buttons, you don't have access to the battery compartment, less battery, no Bluetooth, and no Wi-Fi. Why does this exist? It just confuses me, because on their website, as of writing this review, this is $50, their old one. This is $50, their new 2024 model, and this is $63.99. Go for this. It is so much better, and this is why it confuses me, and I'm not sure why ANBERNIC has made this device. In terms of specs, the RG35XX 2024 features a 1.5 GHz H700 quad-core ARM Cortex-A53 CPU, a dual-core G3U GPU, 1 GB of RAM, a 3.5-inch IPS display, and 2600 mAh of battery. Just like the original, the design is the same, featuring a lovely 3.5-inch display that's bright enough and colourful enough to play outside without an overwhelming amount of glare. The bezels are slim, making it look modern, and the viewing angles are great too, making it an all-round cracking display for a device of this size. Below that you'll find your action buttons, featuring ANBERNIC's famous D-pads, which are close to flawless. They have great direction, sturdy enough to feel every press, but flexible enough to enjoy fighting games. Your menu button in the middle will pull up all of your emulator settings, allowing you to swiftly get into your save states and display options. Then next to that, your nicely sized action buttons. The only negative I have regarding these action buttons is that they are high gloss. So if you're a sweaty little nerd like me that likes to snack as they game, these do get a little slippery, and I just would have preferred them being like a matte finish. I know the gloss adds some kind of vajazzle, but I'm just a little crumb goblin. Below that are your lovely start and select buttons and a small speaker grille that takes design inspiration from the original Game Boy. On the back you have your 4 shoulder buttons, which unfortunately are not stacked, but they again do the job. They're not great, nor are they terrible, but the fact that they didn't add the Plus's shoulder buttons irritates me, because that wouldn't have cost them anything extra. They've got these shoulder buttons in the factory, why not put them on? Oh yeah, I understand. You want people to buy this and then realize actually they want this, to end up with a total of like $114 spend. I'm watching you, ANBERNIC. I know what you're doing. Another confusing feature is the sticker on the back, because it actually states that this device is the RG35XX Plus, which it isn't. The Plus handheld has a sticker that has the word Plus instead of the icons. So again, this would confuse newcomers. If I was someone, let's say at an airport, that liked handhelds, and I saw someone picking up this, and I go, hey, can I have a look? Oh, RG35XX Plus. I Google RG35XX Plus and I buy it. Turns out you'll get this, but it also says RG35XX Plus. Comparing the 2024 model to the better Plus version, there are some minor differences in the design, but you wouldn't notice them at first glance. For example, the start and select is slightly different, or slanted differently, shall I say. The volume buttons are again a little bit different. There's no removable battery door, a black screen bezel, not grey, and the shell itself is just a few millimeters smaller. But again, it's all pretty much unnoticeable if you were to look at them on face value. I did notice that the 2024 model is very slightly thinner, but you're not really going to notice that in your hand. Once you turn on the device, you'll be greeted with a slightly different OS compared to the god-awful OS from the original RG35XX. And in all honesty, This one isn't much better. Time after time, I mentioned in our ANBERNIC reviews that they need to work on their UI, but they seem to just keep ignoring their community. And I know why, because the community are more than happy to create custom operating systems for these devices. So ANBERNIC are just sat there like, we don't need to do that. Look at all these operating systems made for our devices for free. Just download them. Because this device has no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, there's no over-the-air updates or any way of connecting a Bluetooth controller to it. Now let's talk about performance. It's going to perform just as well as the Plus version, which admittedly is a nice upgrade from the original RG35XX. For example, this can now emulate PSP and Dreamcast games very well, which was impossible on the original, and that's thanks to the nice power bump. The screen ratio allows for most retro games to fill the display nicely. For example, Dreamcast, Game Boy Advance and PlayStation 1 games, all which run really well on here and are easy to access thanks to the icons and simple list of games. The limit for this device is PSP emulation, and you will notice some slowdown on larger PSP games, for example, God of War. The smaller PSP games will run well, but not all of them. So that's where this device cuts off. And with the lack of an analog stick, I would say if you're looking to play PSP games on here, there are better alternatives. I found myself playing a lot of PlayStation 1 and Game Boy Advance games on here, which you might be like, Brandon, doesn't the original do that? Yeah, it does. And my issue, it's not really an issue, but the 3.5-inch display is perfect for those kind of games. Once you start getting into Dreamcast and PlayStation portable territory, the text does get a little small. So I keep finding myself going back to the older retro games because of the screen size. So that might be a reason why you might not want to upgrade from the original to the 2024 version. But as I mentioned, as of writing this review, they're both priced exactly the same. It would be great if this was like $30 because it would be an absolute steal. This is the original, but I can't see ANBERNIC doing that. I did notice that the sleep function didn't work as well as intended. After putting the device on sleep at 100% charge, it was on 2% charge after just 20 hours. So I do recommend turning this off completely when not in use, or it will guzzle up your battery life. I believe this was an incredibly easy device for ANBERNIC to make. It had all of the parts lying around, it had an audience that might sap it up, and it was just ready to go with very little work. But in actual reality, there's no point buying it because the RG35XX Plus is an absolutely incredible handheld for $63 and does much more than this at $50. So just go for the Plus. And this is why this review is quite short. I've done so many comparisons and reviews of these on our YouTube channel and our website. So if you are interested in these, just take a look. This is a handheld that you just need to sleep on. I get it. It's adorable. It looks great. It looks like a Game Boy. Semi-comfortable. But the Plus is the one to go for. So if you are looking for an RG35XX handheld, go for the Plus. There's links below. That's it. Video over. Next review. Let's go. Thank you for watching as per usual. We now have a new Patreon should you want to support the channel and brand further. You get sent a welcome kit with a bunch of goodies inside. You get invited to our yearly meetup in the UK, plus behind the scenes and stuff that you don't get anywhere else on our social platforms. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.